Hey, welcome back to YT Finance, and this is the channel where I went to business school so you didn't need to, and today we are talking about Sofi technology stock and how it could fall by around 36.5% from the stock's current price, which currently hovers at around $6.20, which would mean that they are trading at around 80% of their book value, particularly because of a potential recession. And then we're going to move on and talk about Palantir Technologies PLTR stock to determine if Palantir's PLTR stock is a strong buying opportunity before their earnings report, which is going to be on May 9th of 2022, which is the day before May 10th, which is actually going to be Sofi Technologies earnings report. We're also going to go into detail with the latest news updates, which is going to give us insights on why top analysts are actually changing their tune about Palantir Technologies. Then lastly, we're going to talk about Palantir Technologies Apollo Demo Day, which is actually today. So this is just a heads up that a catalyst is happening literally right now on April 27th, and then I'm sure in the next video I will have an update on this official demo day demonstration. So for more Palantir videos and Sofi Technologies videos, remember to go and smash that like button right now, comment your thoughts down below about Sofi or Palantir Technologies, and without further ado, let's jump right into today's stories. So we're going to start off with Sofi Technologies, ticker symbol SOFI, and they are a fintech company, which is a financial technology company that offers an all-in-one inclusive digital app that gives their customers anything that they would need in terms of financial services and or financial products. This would cover checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, and a load of different loans, as well as various investment options in stocks as well as cryptocurrencies. And this particular very negative bearish author thinks that SoFi's lending and their overall revenues and earnings is not being reflected in the stock's current price, which is around $6.20 right now. So let's see the evidence that he uses to determine what the new stock price is going to be if the economy ends up going into a full-on recession. So he says, based on Yahoo Finance statistics, currently the SOFI stock trades for around 1.33 times their book value and 5.37 times its sales. So the PS ratio is around 5.37. However, I would say that these ratios are somewhat inaccurate because the book ratio is actually less than 1.33 as of right now, as well as the PS ratio or price to sales ratio is around 4, not 5.37. However, this matters very little because he's drawing a comparison to Morningstar's previous analysis when the stock was trading at around 14.6 times their sales, which means that the current market cap, which is the current value that the market sets the company at, is around 14.6 times higher than the amount of revenues and sales that they are bringing in on a yearly basis. So compared to what the stock was trading at last year when they were trading at around a 14.6 times their PS ratio, and right now the PS ratio is around 4, the stock seems extremely cheap right now. However, despite this, the author of the article says that the Federal Reserve hiring and increasing interest rates to reduce inflation is going to drastically impact the profits and revenues of Sofi Technologies, and we've gone over this in past videos of their new adjusted EBITDA as well as their adjusted revenues for the year of 2022. And if this impacts their total volume of loans, this is also going to impact negatively their overall book value. Therefore, the author concludes that if the SOFI stock price is trading at around 80% of the book value, the market cap for Sofi Technologies could drop to around $3.326 billion, which would represent a drop of around 36.5% from the company's current market capitalization of around $5.238 billion, which would imply that the stock price is going to fall from around $6.55, or right now it's trading at $6.20, down to around $4.16 per share. So he is warning investors that this could potentially happen. And although I would actually tend to agree, if the economy enters a full-on recession, this is very plausible that the SOFI stock price could fall to around $4.16. However, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I actually think that Sofi Technologies is going to have a very strong rebound after the year of 2022 because they are growing at a CAGR for their revenues of around or over 45%, which is astonishing, and they are headed toward profitability because the company is set to become profitable in 2024. So with that being said, it's best to buy the company now while it's cheap, hold on to the company for 2 years, and that's when the stock is truly going to show its true colors and surge very impressively. However, if you're not willing to hold the stock for 2 years or longer, then this stock may not be for you. There is a chance that we're not going to see a rebound or a surge throughout the entire year of 2022 due to macroeconomic factors. However, for me personally, I believe that Sofi Technologies Technologies is financially and fundamentally a strong company, but then again, I'm not going to overexpose myself to this aggressive risky growth stock, which means I'm not going to allocate more than 5% of my overall portfolio to this company, even though I do own quite a bit of Sofi Technologies, but I'm willing to hold it for the next 5 to 10 years. So it really doesn't bother me whatever the stock's going to do in the short term, especially if it drops down to $4.16. Honestly, I'm just going to buy more and double down until I reach max exposure to this company, which would be 5% of my overall portfolio allocation. But with that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts down below about the SOFI stock. And now we're going to move on to talking about Palantir's PLTR stock, which is currently trading at around $10.70. For Palantir Technologies as well as Sofi Technologies, we are looking forward to their Q1 2022 earnings report, which for Palantir is going to come out on May 9th of 2022, and for Sofi Technologies, their earnings report for Q1 of 2022 is set to come out on May 10th. And of course, I'm going to analyze their earnings to project their current stock price potential for both of these companies after these earnings reports are actually released. We're also going to talk about how Palantir is very discounted right now compared to what they were trading at, but the further the stock price falls, the better opportunity it is to buy and get in on this company in the first place. However, if you have already overexposed yourself to this company and you bought in at all-time highs, doubling down on this company could put you at risk for overexposure, which would be bad risk management. Now, for Palantir Technologies, if you didn't know, Palantir is a big data and analytics company that serves both commercial clients and government agencies, and it allows these organizations to make data-driven decisions based off of the data and analytics that they provide. And Palantir does this mainly through artificial intelligence. Now, the author of this particular article is very bullish and positive for Palantir and their PLTR stock, specifically for their Q1 22 results, because he believes in their acceleration of their commercial customer growth, which I've been talking about well over a year now. I am a huge fan of Palantir's commercial side, not so much their government side, but I do like how their government side gives them stable revenues while their commercial side is rapidly expanding. For the full year of 2021, Palantir brought in around $1.54 billion worth of revenues, which would represent a 41% year-over-year growth rate, which is absolutely phenomenal. The company also has very impressive free cash flows, and they saw a huge improvement of this because they went from a loss for their FCF from $271.9 million for the full year of 2020 to $424.2 million for the full year of 2021. Nonetheless, the author of this article is very positive on this company, and he expects Palantir to bring in very impressive results for their Q1 2022 earnings reports, particularly regarding and revolving around their commercial segment. Palantir's commercial segment had a 47% year-over-year revenue growth rate in Q4 of 2021, and he anticipates that this will continue to accelerate throughout the year of 2022. Palantir increased their commercial customer count by around 200% during the full year of 2021 by adding around 98 new paying customers, and he thinks this is going to continuously be reflected, particularly in Q1 of 2022. We can see where he's getting this data from, because if we look at Palantir's government revenues, their commercial revenues, their US commercial revenues, and their non-commercial US revenues, we can see that their commercial revenues as a whole have increased quarter over quarter throughout the year of 2021, from Q1, Q2, Q3, and through Q4. All of these metrics have increased very dramatically, and they haven't had a pullback yet. However, on the other hand, we actually see their government revenues actually declining as time goes on, which means, like I predicted almost a year ago, that Palantir is going to become more reliant on their commercial segment rather than their government segment, which gives them stable revenues. However, their commercial segment is going to be the thing that eventually takes this company profitable between 2024 and or the year of 2025, which are the years that Palantir is projected to become a profitable company. According to current professional analysis of Palantir and their customers, Palantir's customers are increasing their average spending for Palantir's services and or products over time. So this means that not only is Palantir holding on to their customers and their customers are not changing from Palantir to another product or service, but as Palantir increases the time span and the relationship with these customers over time tend to spend more and more money buying Palantir services and or products, which means that Palantir is of great value to these companies, and these companies love Palantir so much that they are doubling down and buying more services and products from Palantir. This is going to be reflected very well in their free cash flows as well as their revenues. For instance, you all probably know that Palantir is currently projected to grow their revenues by a 30% CAGR from now until 2025, which means that for quarter one of 2022, Palantir should bring in around $443 million worth of revenues in their upcoming earnings report, with an adjusted operating margin of around 23%. However, the author of this article is even more bullish on this company and believes that the revenues are supposed to come in closer to $450 million, which is beating professionals' guidance for this particular company. The author believes that Palantir is going to report between $110 to $115 million in their upcoming earnings report, which would absolutely be insane. He also thinks that if we use a 25% FCF margin, we can use this to calculate this metric of $110 to $115 million of free cash flows based off of the revenues of $450 million, which he projected earlier. Now, this is a very bullish statement. However, if we look at Palantir's past performance for their revenues and free cash flows, we can see that these are two metrics that Palantir really likes to impress their investors with. But I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves. The company, I think, will likely maintain that 30% CAGR for their revenue growth rate for quarter one of 2022, which means that they're going to bring in around $443 million worth of revenues overall. For a really good growth company such as Palantir Technologies, ideally we would want their PS ratio to be below 10 times. However, if we compare this to companies like Sofi, which has a PS ratio below 5, that is even more impressive. And if we also anticipate that Palantir is supposed to grow at a 30% CAGR and Sofi Technologies is anticipated to grow at a 40 to 45% CAGR for their revenues, I actually think that Sofi Technologies could provide investors a bigger bang for their buck, depending on if everything goes right in their particular industry. But to me, both of these companies are good long-term holding opportunities. Don't anticipate these companies to pay off anytime during the short term, so in the next 2 years, you're going to have to be willing to hold Palantir at least 5 years before they really start to increase and be impressive, and for Sofi Technologies, you're going to have to hold over 2, and this is based off of their current PS ratios. So currently, the biggest risk for Palantir Technologies is their stock-based compensation as well as their current valuation, which is rather high, because you are paying a slight premium for the PLTR stock right now, especially if you're not willing to hold this company for the long term. On the other hand, Sofi Technologies also has stock-based compensation risk. However, I think the valuation for the company is much more manageable than what we see with Palantir right now. However, with that being said, I am excited for both of these companies' future revenue growth and particularly Palantir's free cash flow generation, which is absolutely fantastic. I also want to point out how top analysts are slowly changing their tune about the PLTR stock. For instance, we have a Piper Sandler analyst who talks very positively about Palantir, who is a big data specialist. This actually helps us as investors solidify the bullish scenario for Palantir Technologies. The analyst even says, and I quote, "We noted broadening transaction among government agencies, beyond defense and into agencies like the Department of Veteran Affairs and Department of Energy." He goes on to say, "We expect this to drive 10 to 20% plus annual USG growth for the next few years." End quote. Basically, this 5-star analyst is saying that although Palantir's commercial clients and commercial revenues are increasing and rapidly growing, we are also going to see their government business start to grow as well, despite what we've seen over the last couple of quarters. And his evidence actually comes from the DoD, or Department of Defense, requesting a budget increase of around 5% for the year of 2022 and a 4% increase in their budget for the full year of 2023. And this higher Department of Defense exposure, the analyst goes on to say, could be a very positive catalyst for Palantir's business. The reason why this is such good news for Palantir Technologies is because Palantir serves agencies which would include the U.S. Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the U.S. Special Operations Command, and the Department of Defense themselves. And these all represent a very large revenue source for Palantir Technologies. Right now, the current PLTR stock price is trading at around $10.60. However, this 5-star analyst thinks that the company and the PLTR stock could achieve a $15 to $16 price target within the next 12 months, which would represent around a 32% increase from the stock's current price. However, overall, compared to other 4-star and 5-star analysts, they are mainly skeptical about Palantir Technologies, and they rate it as a hold because 5 analysts say to hold the company, 3 Wall Street analysts say to buy the company, and only one of these analysts say to sell the company, with the average stock price coming in at around $15.06, which would give investors around a 24% increase if they decide to buy into the company right now. However, this is only the average scenario. For instance, if the economy starts to go into a full-on recession, or if the stock market crashes, clearly these 12-month price predictions are not going to be accurate, which is why we need to use these price predictions as a guide and take them with a grain of salt and not as something that actually will happen. For the PLTR stock, the most bullish price prediction of these analysts is $21, and for the most bearish analyst, they think the company is worth around $10 per share. Likewise, Sofi Technologies, which is trading at around $6 right now, has a high-end price target of around $22 and a low-end price target of around $4 from the article that we looked at previously. With that being said, I would love to hear your thoughts down below about the SOFI stock and the PLTR stock. Remember to go and smash that like button right now for more videos on Sofi Technologies and Palantir Technologies. Subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next YT video.